Canberra is abuzz with a conversation once thought impossible. In the corridors of power, whispers have turned into open debate, and the nation's political landscape is shifting in ways few could have predicted just a few years ago. Australia, long regarded as a steadfast and loyal US ally, is now openly considering a dramatic pivot toward the BRICS economic bloc. This is a move that would have been unthinkable in the past, but today it's being discussed at the highest levels of government and business. BRICS, which began as a coalition of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has rapidly expanded its influence. The group now includes new economic giants from the Middle East and Africa, such as Saudi Arabia and Egypt, making it a formidable force on the world stage. The idea of joining a group often seen as a counterweight to the West has moved from academic fantasy to mainstream debate. Politicians, analysts, and business leaders are all weighing the pros and cons, and the conversation is no longer confined to think tanks or university lecture halls. On September 4, 2025, this is no longer a fringe idea. It's a response to economic necessity and strategic anxiety. The world is changing fast, and Australia is feeling the pressure to adapt or risk being left behind. For over a century, the US alliance has defined Australia's security, foreign policy, and even its national identity. The ANZUS Treaty and countless joint military exercises have cemented this relationship, but that foundation is now shaking as new global realities emerge. The long-held assumption that Australia's interests always align with Washington's is being challenged as never before. Policymakers are re-examining old certainties and asking tough questions about the future. Senior Australian officials have already held informal talks with BRICS representatives, signaling a willingness to diversify partnerships and explore new opportunities. These discussions, once secretive, are now part of a broader national conversation. This isn't about abandoning old friends or alliances, but about recognizing that the global economic center of gravity is shifting. Australia's prosperity depends on its ability to adapt to these changes and secure its place in a rapidly evolving world. BRICS nations now represent a larger share of the global economy than the G7, a fact that is impossible to ignore. Their collective influence is growing, not just in economics, but in global governance and diplomacy as well. For a trade-dependent nation like Australia, ignoring this shift is perilous. The country's exports, jobs, and future growth are all tied to global markets, and those markets are increasingly shaped by BRICS nations. The question is no longer if Australia should engage with BRICS, but how and on what terms. Policymakers are now focused on crafting strategies that will maximize benefits while protecting national interests. The very fact that BRICS membership is on the table for Australia shows just how much global politics is changing. As the world enters a new era of multipolarity, Australia faces a defining choice about its place in the international order, and the decisions made now will shape its future for decades to come. The catalyst for Australia's rethink. Washington's tariffs on key Australian exports, steel, aluminum, under America First policies. Canberra saw this as a betrayal by a supposed steadfast ally. The tariffs and President Trump's transactional approach fueled doubts about America's reliability. Even as intelligence sharing and military ties remain strong, political trust has eroded. Australia has supported US wars and Indo-Pacific strategy, yet faces economic penalties. The world is more complex, and loyalty to the US is no longer cost-free. With China rising and US priorities shifting, Australia is hedging its bets. Considering BRICS is not defiance, it's pragmatic self-preservation in a world where old certainties are fading. The BRICS question has split Australian politics, cutting across party lines and igniting one of the most passionate debates in recent years. Politicians, analysts, and the public are all weighing in, with opinions sharply divided on what path Australia should take in a rapidly changing world. Traditionalists in defense circles argue that the US alliance is sacrosanct. ANZUS, they say, is the ultimate guarantor of Australia's sovereignty and security. For them, the historic partnership with the United States is not just a military arrangement, but a cornerstone of national identity and trust built over decades. These voices warn that joining BRICS could be a dangerous trap, risking Australia's core values and long-term security for the promise of short-term economic gain. They fear that closer ties with BRICS nations could undermine established alliances and leave Australia vulnerable in times of crisis. On the other hand, Pragmatists in trade and business argue that Australia's prosperity is increasingly tied to Asia, and that BRICS represents a vital forum for future growth. They see economic engagement with emerging powers as essential for jobs, investment, and innovation in a competitive global market. These pragmatists believe Australia can maintain its security ties with the US, while also pursuing new economic opportunities with BRICS countries, striking a careful balance between old alliances and new partnerships. They point out that other US allies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE have joined BRICS without severing their ties to Washington, suggesting that dual engagement is possible in today's interconnected world. For traditionalists, it's a zero-sum game. Any move toward BRICS is seen as a step away from the US. For pragmatists, it's a chance to find balance, adapt, and secure Australia's future in a multipolar world. The soul of Australian foreign policy is up for debate, and the choices made now will shape the nation's place in the world for generations to come. As US ties fray, China has seized the moment, offering Australia a new era of economic partnership. After years of trade sanctions, Beijing now promises long-term contracts for iron ore and gas, and access to its vast market. China is also offering investment in Australian infrastructure, especially renewables, aligning with Canberra's domestic agenda. Beijing champions Australia's potential role in BRICS, promising a voice in new global institutions. The offer is strategic. Closer economic ties make Australia less likely to challenge China's regional ambitions. For Australia, the challenge is weighing real economic opportunity against the risk of strategic dependence. It's a high-stakes negotiation, future prosperity versus potential loss of independence. The stakes couldn't be higher. News of Australia's BRICS flirtation has rattled Washington. The US is scrambling to reaffirm the alliance, offering accelerated AUKUS submarine delivery and expanded military exercises. But behind the scenes, there's real worry. If Australia joins a bloc with China and Russia, intelligence sharing and trust could be compromised. US officials fear this could set a precedent for other allies to hedge their bets. The lesson alliances can't be taken for granted, and economic statecraft has real geopolitical consequences. The question is whether Washington's response will be enough, or if Australia's drift is already irreversible. Strip away the rhetoric, and Australia's dilemma is about numbers. China is by far Australia's top trading partner, over $300 billion in two-way trade, compared to $100 billion with the US sectors from mining to education depend on China, giving Beijing leverage. The US relationship is more about investment and technology, less about bulk trade. The expanded BRICS bloc now accounts for nearly 40% of global GDP and 45% of the world's population. For Australia, BRICS offers diversification and access to new markets. The central tension security logic points to Washington. Economic logic points to Beijing and beyond. The BRICS debate echoes across Australian society, resonating in the halls of power and the streets alike. It's a topic that has captured the attention of citizens from all walks of life, sparking discussions and debates that ripple through the nation. Business leaders in mining, agriculture, and education see BRICS as a pragmatic necessity. Prosperity funds security. They argue that aligning with BRICS could open new avenues for trade and investment, potentially boosting the economy and creating jobs. For them, economic growth is intertwined with national security. Farmers want stable, diverse export markets after years of trade disputes. They hope that joining BRICS could provide access to new markets, reducing reliance on traditional partners and offering a buffer against future trade tensions. The military and intelligence community, however, warned that joining BRICS would undermine Australia's defence ties and leave it vulnerable. They stressed the importance of maintaining strong alliances with traditional partners, emphasizing that security cannot be compromised for economic gain. They argue US security guarantees are irreplaceable, providing a safety net that has been crucial for decades. The military believes that these alliances are the backbone of Australia's defence strategy. Political commentators are split. Some see a chance for Australia to act as a bridge between West and East, a unique position that could enhance its diplomatic influence. Others warn neutrality is a dangerous fantasy, arguing that trying to balance both sides could lead to isolation. Critics say trying to play both sides risks being trusted by neither. They caution that Australia could find itself in a precarious position, caught between competing interests and unable to fully commit to either side. The call for reaffirming Western alliances is strong, but so is the lure of economic opportunity. The nation is torn between its historical ties and the potential for new partnerships that promise growth and prosperity. Australia stands at a crossroads, with powerful voices on both sides. The decision will not only affect the country's economic landscape, but also its geopolitical standing and future direction. The outcome will shape the nation's future, determining its role on the global stage and the path it will take in the years to come. The stakes are high, and the world is watching. Australia's BRICS decision is a global event, not just a domestic one. If Australia joins, it signals the unraveling of the US-led order and gives BRICS new credibility. Other US allies in Asia may follow, eroding the regional alliance system. For Australia, joining BRICS could complicate its identity as a liberal democracy and force tough diplomatic choices. The move could damage its soft power and reputation as a principled middle power. This realignment is a direct result of US policy and a shifting global landscape. Australia's choice will be a bellwether for the future of global alliances. The world is watching. How Australia navigates this moment may foreshadow the geopolitical future for many nations.